I am getting to share more stories of some of the amazing genius CEO clients that I work with. And people say, why do you do what you do, Marianne? Well, you're going to know by the end of this next 20 minutes. For anybody who doesn't know me, my name's Marianne Smith. I'm an executive and business coach, and I have the joy of supporting ambitious, high-achieving women to be able to step into their genius CEO shoes that allows them to always have the career and business that aligns with the life that they are creating. And today, as I said, I am joined by one of my genius CEO clients, who is Jackie Bevan. Now, Jackie, I'm not going to actually even attempt to introduce too much about you because you have got a voice on you to do that powerfully for yourself. But as a director of a long-standing, established family business, I am in electrical distribution. Introduce yourself to everybody here and let's start hearing more about your story.
Thank you very much, Marianne. It's a pleasure to be here. Always enjoy talking to you. And what can I say? I am 58-year-old mother of two grown-up children, 20, 22, and married to my husband, Dave, who, when I married him, had a family business that his father ran. He ran a little part of it, and I didn't want to get involved. I'd heard all of the family squabbles and didn't want to get involved.
Does that not make you chuckle now?
Yeah. They didn't want to get involved, and that was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
I've been involved for the last 15.
That is funny.
David comes from a family business, and they've all just learned as they've gone along. My background was corporate management, and I was PA, office manager, lots of different positions, temped a lot. I never really ran my own show, just ran other people's. And I was amazed at how much I learned from doing that and brought it to the business. Yeah. So for the last 15 years, we've been running that, ups and downs. Some big downs at the beginning. Family organisations can be a nightmare. Yeah. I'm sure there's other people out there who can identify with that. They can be very emotional and destructive. And it's trying to get through that. And the emotional side of running a family business is enormous, especially working with your husband.
Totally.
So through all the ups and downs, we're now at a stage where my husband is going to be retiring at the end of this month, and I'm going to be carrying on running the show. He has a fixed mindset. I have a growth mindset. And that's where we realised that it was time for him to step aside and for me to continue with the business in the short term. So we've had an exit strategy going for years and years and years now. And we are a currently £2.5 million turnover business. We, at our height in 2018, were 3.8. We've had lots of trappings of that success, but we've also made some big mistakes. You know, we've taken our finger off the pulse, let other people try and run the business who haven't. And probably we didn't have enough control on that. So yeah, lots and lots of things. You can imagine, I'm sure whoever's listening to this can hear all the rows we probably had already, because they were loud.
Absolutely. And that's lovely hearing such an honest reflection of the truth of business. And as you say, family business is a very different beast, because it can be that you are in a generational pattern of behaviour that has been learned as you go, without knowing whether it's actually the best way to do anything. But everybody's getting by. And in the complexity, I always say, as a woman who is in business with her husband as well, you have to get into bed with him at the end of the day. And when you have a marital relationship in amongst that as well, it just adds another dimension of complexity to the whole thing. And as you say, just because you're making several multi-seven figures, it's brings its highs, but also brings its lows, and maintaining and continue to be in a place of growth and joy with that can be really challenging, even if the business is 50 years old.
You're dead right. And typically, Marianne, you put your finger on it straight away. Whenever I'm chatting away, I feel I'm just offloading. But you hear between the lines and can put your finger on exactly where the problem is. And I hadn't thought, for example, like you said earlier on, that family businesses bring with them their own habits. And I hadn't really particularly thought of that.
Yeah.
I'd only just thought of the most previous layer. But now that you mention that, God, yeah, I can see the traits that have gone through the family. So yes, typically you've picked up on that and helped me identify it and see it. So where I am now is I am really trying to bring some good people in, who are going to take the company forward.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be able to sit down and bask in their glory.
Absolutely.
Mentor them and give them the best advice I possibly can, whilst at the same time giving them resources, the tools and everything they need to succeed.
Absolutely. So I know that when we first started chatting, before we started this journey of leadership and business development together, that you were clear that you wanted to look at how to scale the company, to re-energize it, to get it into a place of continual growth, but to put yourself in much more of a strategic position that we could bring in the right people and start to build a really robust team around as well as that would support the financial growth of this business.
Yeah.
And how
typically,
because that's been about 6 months, Matt.
Yeah, that's been 6 months. But typically with any family business, a skills gap, if a skills gap comes up, you fill it.
Yeah.
So that's why my husband's not quite convinced that he's going to be retiring at the end of April. And at the moment, I'm not surprised because I've got 2 staff off with COVID. I've got 1 mat leave cover not working out. And, you know, and I feel the same constantly. But I've learned through your guidance to speak to my team and say, how can we resolve this? Rather than me feeling, this is my responsibility. Absolutely. I've got to fix this. You know, I've got to fix this. I've got to fix this. And that's now out of my vocabulary. I've got to is now out of my vocabulary. And I must is out of my vocabulary. The more things are, I intend what my intentions are, my best intentions. And that's all thanks to the teachings that you've given me.
It's just that, it's that shift, isn't it, from saying, I have got to do this, I have got to do that, to saying, I get to do this, and I get to do that.
Yeah, and I'm actually starting to become fun. You said in one of your masterclasses the other day, and I wrote it in big letters in my book, make it fun. You've got to do it anyway. Might as well make it fun.
That is that one thing that whenever that challenge, it comes in right out of left wing and hits you on the side of the face like a giant salmon, it takes your breath away. And just being able to connect very quickly instead of going into drama, oh my goodness, look what's happened, this is terrible, and it adds to everything else that's going wrong. You suddenly now go, what does my body want to happen here? How do I stay connected to the values and the boundaries I've put in place to deal with this in a respectful way to them?
Yeah.
And
when I joined you, I was in burnout, wasn't I? I was right in the middle, smack bang, probably near the end of burnout. And overwhelm. Yeah. And I'd been there once before and it wasn't pretty. And I went right into terrible depression. And I just was so scared of doing that again. Yeah. So I knew I needed help. And then the minute I got that help, half of the weight comes off your shoulders because you've got a problem shared. Totally. And when it's your own business, it's very lonely. It's lonely at the top. Even if you're working with other people, you do feel like you're on your own. And I know there's a lot of women out there who have got their small businesses that probably identify with this. They feel very alone. And it can be lonely making those decisions. So, yeah, it's been great for us the last 6 months, and I'm sure it would be greater for the next 6.
Oh, I cannot wait because we've only started this. But it's always keeping what is the end point for you, and building the business in alignment to the lifestyle that you want to create.
Yeah.
Because so many people go into business and suddenly they go in with the intention of freedom, flexibility, and space. And within 2 months, they're working harder than they ever worked. And they're listening to that belief that's out there that you have to sacrifice yourself to do all of this.
People seem to think that you're not a success, or there seems to be this misconception that you're not a success unless you're working yourself to the bone.
Totally.
No,
we've got rid of that one, haven't we? And it's that replacing that belief that you have to be busy to be successful, that you have to be busy to justify your existence, and pushing that right out and getting really connected to in here. Because I can remember in the early few weeks, and we would be talking a lot about what was going on with you, and you would say to me, we shouldn't be talking about this. We have to be talking, what about the business stuff? We need to get to the business stuff. Yeah. And I'm going, no, this isn't therapy. This is leadership we're talking about. And that starts with self. And I know that now, 6 months down the line, you've made me smile regularly in some of the conversations that you've dropped to me on Messenger or picked up the phone, as you've recalled what has happened in a moment and your response to it that has been so decisive, so aligned, so powerful, that actually, is it any wonder I have good cheekbones for the amount of smiling? It's incredible. It's incredible when you see someone really, really stepping into their own potentiality. And I think for us, we often talk about, we're both women in our 50s. And do you know that perception that you'll be winding down? And actually, we're just winding up into ourselves, to be able to have a business, to have had so much of a career for you, and to still be at this stage of all that abundance of experience, and you have transcended even further beyond what you believed was possible. And that is what we all have within us. But you have to be open to that kind of level of expansion of your own self to have the impact out on your life.
For me, the most impactful thing has been taking the emotion out of it. And it's the emotions that cripple me. I'm a very emotive person. And that's what tends to cripple me. But by putting in the structure to take the strain, another one of yours, and we have been working on both levels. We've been working on the emotive side and the leadership, and we've been working on the strategic side, but far more on the leadership, the real intrinsic part of you that makes you tick at work. And if you haven't got that, really, all the strategies in the world aren't going to help.
No. And yet people dive in looking for, telling me, how do I do it? How do I do it? Just tell me how to do it.
The how.
The how pull, the how and do pull, do you know? And as you say, without that internal leadership ability, it's very difficult. And your description is really, I think, reflective of a lot of women out there, especially women who have worked in a corporate environment, have had potentially quite senior jobs, who would have described themselves as being really good leaders. But actually, it's when you step out into a place of entrepreneurship where there's not the support, you don't have the team, and suddenly you're realizing that you don't know yourself as well as you thought. And that it's very lonely all of a sudden, and the leadership skills that you thought made you successful there aren't doing the same here.
No, they're not. And everybody thinks they can do their boss's job.
Yeah, that's very true.
Everybody thinks they can do their boss's job. Not only can they do their boss's job, they can do it better than their boss. So until they're in that position, really, they shouldn't be shouting.
Absolutely.
Because you can walk, you don't know, and there's a very old saying, and I'm not going to say it right, but until you've walked a mile in their shoes, you can't judge.
Absolutely. But now you're in a place of having lifted you out of operations. No, I'm not going to say it lifted you out. You have led yourself out of where you weren't in your place of strength. You have been able to make really sound decisions on your recruitment to get the right people who aren't just aligned to you, but it's also been getting the right people and working out who maybe isn't best in the roles that are there, and realigning everything.
And having the courage also to say, this isn't right for us.
Yeah.
Rather than, oh, don't want to upset them, poor wee thing. If they can't do the job, you're not doing them any favours by keeping them on. No. You know, let them find their space. And earlier on, you were saying about whether I jump in or jump out. I had a dilemma this morning where we have a mat cover lady, maternity cover lady, who's just not working out.
Yeah.
And I thought, right, okay, I'm going to have to go in there and do the job. I'm going to have to do the accounting. I'm going to have to do the credit control. I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to do that. And I thought, this really isn't my area of expertise. I haven't done this for 10 years.
Yeah.
I'm out of that. And plus, I'm not going to be leading everybody else if I'm doing that. So I just phoned up the lady whose department it was, even though she's still on maternity leave. She's only due back next week.
Yeah.
And said, we've got a problem here.
Yeah.
How are we going to sort this out? And put the ownership where it belonged. 6 months ago, I would have been at that desk, typing away, trying to figure out how it all worked, getting myself worked up. And in a split second, I thought, this isn't my decision to make.
Yeah.
The person who owns this department, and she's a real career woman. Yeah. You know, she's had her baby, but she wants to be a career woman. She wants to help me lead this company. Yeah. So she wanted to have that responsibility, and I was just about to take it off her.
Yeah. And the thing is, though, for what I'm hearing there is you have learned how to not just put in boundaries for yourself, but understanding the boundaries of your staff as well.
Yes.
Whereas you were they weren't in place, so you were leaking in when you shouldn't, and you were keeping things when you shouldn't as well. Whereas now, I know that you've got really great boundaries with that individual. So you know that that's the best decision to make, and you can make it really confidently.
Yeah.
And I loved what you said there about the whole emotions, because ultimately we do a lot of conversation and with every leader I work with around emotions, because emotions underpin the self-trust that you need to be a really fabulous genius CEO. That genius leadership is all about establishing that self-trust. And to do that, you need to master your own emotion.
You do. And there's people around you all the time trying to knock you off your perch. Absolutely. Especially as you get stronger and people aren't used to that. And this is all very topical, isn't it, really? People not used to women starting to step into their own right of strength and trust. And so to trust yourself after generations and generations and generations of being told to put up and shut up is very empowering. And you almost can't trust yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's what you've been hearing all around you.
But Jackie, how does it feel to trust yourself now?
It feels quite liberating, and fun.
Fun.
I feel like I can have fun with this now. I feel like I can have fun with it, with my future, now that I have decided to take control of it.
Yeah. I see you have created space. We have done a lot of conversation about you creating space. And I have seen you stepping into a very creative space because of it. That instead of being, falling on old stories and beliefs about, if that happens and this will be a disaster, you look at things going, okay, if something's happened there that wasn't going to plan, it's obviously because there might be an opportunity to do something different.
Yeah.
And you step right into a very creative space these days.
Exactly. Did that earlier on, and we came up with a solution very, very quickly, because I had the room to instead of going, oh no, it's the end of the world. Now what am I going to do? I've got nobody to run this department, and I might as well throw the towel in again.
Yeah.
The amount of towels. And no, it's like, well, hang on a minute. What's this telling us? This is telling us that we made a mistake. We've got to own it and then not make that mistake again. Sometimes things do just come along. Absolutely. But right, okay, so how do we? So I looked at it in two ways, and I said, right, the universe has sent us this. How are we going to deal with it? But within an hour, the universe also sent us the answer. So if you've got so much negativity in your life, then the positives can't come through.
Absolutely.
You've got so much negativity around you, fogging your brain, that it doesn't allow the clarity and the good things to come through.
Absolutely.
I discovered that nearly every day.
Absolutely. But the difference is that you're able to clear it quickly.
Yeah.
Knowing how to step forward.
Far quicker than I used to, yes.
Absolutely. And it's like we had conversations just before we came live, and it was that about when you just know when is the time when you need to have that bit extra support, when you're trying to think, right, who's the best person to have? And you've got this amazing team. I am really proud to be part of that team as your coach, which is amazing. But it's when if that phone goes for me, I know now it's not Jackie going, oh, I'm having a meltdown. It's Jackie going, can I run something by you? Mm. And it's a very focused, strategic, thoughtful conversation around a challenging subject, rather than, oh my goodness, the ice cap is melting. And that's been, it's wonderful because it's like, oh, I wonder what we're going to come up with this time. And that's a really joyful thing to be part of. Really joyful.
But I'm glad you find it joyful. We've got our session straight after, so I can keep you with it all.
But you may be the director of a very successful company, a multi-million-pound company, and there may be women out there who aren't at that level yet, who are maybe starting out. But I know that every single thing that you have said is relevant at every single level, regardless.
It really is, and I'm nothing special. I've got friends out there who don't have as high-powered jobs as me, and I've got people who've got far higher power jobs than me, and I operate on every level, and I have friends on every level. I'm proud of my achievements, but I'm also respectful of other people's achievements in their own right as well. So we're all human at the end of the day.
Your lessons that you've shared today will be relevant regardless.
I hope so, because I'm just a normal girl.
You're just a normal gal. And that's what we say. When it comes down to it, we're just pretty normal women. And actually, we just know different things, use our skills to our maximum, and come together as a collaborative, building that community around you of like-minded people.
Yeah.
Getting the ones who've done it before you, the ones with the gap.
Surrounding yourself with the same type of people, and we're not ordinary. We're ordinary girls doing extraordinary things.
We are indeed. And what a beautiful way to end this conversation. Ordinary girls doing extraordinary things. So Jackie Bevan, thank you so much for sharing. And it's lovely when we just have these heart-led conversations, because we never know what's going to come up. And it was just perfect, exactly what it was needing to be. So thank you for that. And it's wonderful I am very proud to have you as a Genius CEO. And it's all about putting the ripples out today, out into our communities, and impacting the lives of other women out there. So thank you, Jackie, for that. And if you're interested in finding out more about Genius CEO and Genius Leadership, I'm Marianne Smith. I'm an executive and business coach, and you know where to find me. So when people say, where do you find you? Where don't you find people these days? On our social media platforms. So thank you for joining me, Jackie. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you again soon.